Welcome to the NFT Finance Podcast, sponsored by Goblin Sachs. My name is Terry, and I'm once again joined by my co-host Thomas. Today, we welcome Hanzo and Mob from Fungify, a non-custodial NFT peer-to-contract marketplace and algorithmic lending protocol.
Hey guys, Hanzo, Mob, thanks for coming on. Let's jump right in. Maybe Hanzo, can you just tell me a little bit about your background? What were you doing before crypto? How you got into NFT specifically, and then we can jump over to you, Mob.
Yeah, sure. So my background's in electrical and biomedical engineering, and started off my career in controls engineering, building airport systems, then got into automation cells, programming controllers and robots. And then my career progressed towards protocol development, but not in token design, but rather in industrial protocol design, the language that robots and controllers would speak on factory floors. And then around 2016, 2017, with the advent of Ethereum, I got into the crypto space because I was just so fascinated with this possibility of having decentralized applications through Ethereum smart contracts. There, I started my first startup related to renewable energy assets and the democratization of those assets via tokenization. That ended up turning into some pilot projects down in California and Brazil. I was knee deep working on things like token curated registries, et cetera. In terms of NFTs, in late 2020, early 2021, I got pulled into that space when a few colleagues needed help with NFT projects and a DAO that they're working on. And what really attracted me to that space was just the idea of permanence, that you could store something on the blockchain. It would exist there for as long as the blockchain exists, whatever blockchain that may be. And at that time, I thought the most important issue to solve was, where the storage of these NFTs was. Was it whether it was pointing to some external URL link or whether the metadata was actually stored within the blockchain. While I steeped in that space, I realized there was this greater problem of liquidity. And that's really where the idea of Fungify was born. And we can get into that in a bit, but I'll hand it over to Mob.
Yeah. So under my docs identity, I've been working in DeFi, doing protocol design since 2017. Not industrial robots talking to each other design, regular DeFi design. I had a top 40 wallet when the original DGen score dropped. We have some other really great contributors at the DAO. One of our technical contributors is a MIT Math CS grad with a security auditing background. Another is a former engineer who worked at Boeing. So we have a lot of good backgrounds. I got into crypto full-time 2017 after graduate school. So I had read the Ethereum paper when it first came out, and I was like immediately an ETH min-maxi. And that is someone who is just the right amount of ETH maxi. So I wasn't one of the first people to get NFTs. I was like kind of the DeFi guy. So it was only like March 2020 that I started kind of like the space started kind of like really popping up on my radar. And it was around the time of Loot that it felt like my social graph was starting to collide with the NFT verse. It was like so foreign to me, but it started becoming part of my world.
That's awesome, guys. And how did you come up with the idea for Fungify?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, I was working with the NFT space, and I started to see, that there's this bigger problem that exists with the liquidity. For some people, the most valuable asset they hold in their lives is this NFT that's mooned at hundreds of thousands of dollars, and but they can't really do anything with that asset without trying to sell it. So this is where the core of the idea started to formulate. And the core really was at first to just build an NFT index, one where a NFT holder would gain liquidity via selling their NFT to the index. And on the other side, people could purchase this index to gain exposure to the NFT market. And in terms of the actual mechanics, there would be a single vault with a universal pricing mechanism that would allow for the fractionalization of NFTs coming into it. and the vault would issue tokens that would represent proportional ownership of that vault. So anyone who's holding these vault tokens would, thereby be holding this index, which represents the NFTs contained within the vault. Now, the major problem with that is that, for a lot of NFT holders, their NFTs actually represent, their PFPs or identities, and they have an attachment to it. So just this sort of naive index that I'm describing wouldn't be able to accommodate the case of people who want to actually still preserve ownership of their NFT while gaining access to liquidity. So what we did is we amended this index / vault and said, okay, for anyone who wants to preserve ownership to their NFT, they would be required to pay a fee to guarantee access back to that specific NFT. Now, the big question becomes, what fee are they going to pay? Who are they going to pay that fee to? And I'll let Mob sort of take over here, as he was the best lending person I knew in protocol design, and we got together and we started to really flesh this out.
Yeah. So I think it's just like a really interesting thought experiment. It's like, okay, so I'm going to put this NFT in the index. What does it mean to be able to take it back out? Like, it's not like, oh, okay, well, you can put it in and because there's the issue of, okay, well, you can, redeem it, but what you redeem it for might not be what you put in the first place. So there needs to be this notion that you're asking this question that you can't even ask in TradFi. You can't even ask of a regular index. So, but what it essentially comes down to is that you're talking about a lending protocol. Like, the existence of reserved NFTs within the vault means liquidity for redemptions can't always be guaranteed. And that means that, depositors who haven't reserved their NFTs are providing liquidity for redemptions. So that means that a fee has got to be directed towards them. So they're just, you can almost think of it, like a compound, C token in a sense, right? Where there's the lock liquidity, which has been lent out, and then there's the free liquidity, which is what allows you to redeem your C token at any time, right? And the way these compound pools work, it's pretty straightforward. There's an algorithmic interest rate, and when demand for that liquidity is high, the interest rate goes up. When demand for it is low, it goes down. So this was really important for building the system out, realizing that, okay, we have a lending protocol. We have to put algorithmic interest rates in it. So that was really important.
So what is Fungify and how does it work? How is it different from, the current solutions in the market, the different peer-to-peer, peer-to-protocol, CDP, or peer-to-pool NFT finance protocols out there today?
Yeah. So, okay, it's an NFT index that can earn yield and a lending protocol. So, like, remember how MakerDAO was a stable coin and a lending protocol? And maybe that was kind of confusing, but that's what this is. So Fungify is a ground up rethinking of MakerDAO, enshrining NFTs natively. So, like, imagine MakerDAO. Now imagine if you took DAI and switched it out with an index, a different synthetic token. So, like, just as DAI was critical as a unit of account for early DeFi, this NFT index, we think, is going to be critical as a unit of account for early NFTFi. So, like, essentially, here's what's happening. There's this massive pool of liquid capital that no other protocol is even purporting to unlock. And that's people seeking passive NFT exposure. And we don't just unlock this pool of capital. No, we're doing something that's going to remove the bottleneck from it. We're like going to bring the capital requirements to zero. And that's really democratizing, because it's going to bring the NFT market to parity with other digital assets with respect to liquidity, or at very least, it's going to bring us much closer to it, because right now there's so many people who are locked out. It's just too costly to get into an NFT. They can't afford $70,000 for a Bored Ape. So if you want
in terms of looking at what exists in the market and how we differ, right? So for us, there's three distinct use cases. We have the ability to gain NFT exposure via our index, the ability to borrow against your NFT using it as collateral, and to sell your NFT for instant liquidity. Now, these solutions or these use cases are addressed in the market right now, but let's kind of walk through those and see how Fungify does it better. So starting from the top, which is the index and the ability to gain NFT exposure. So unlike anything else that's offered in the market right now, our NFT index offers yield natively. Because our index is being lent out natively, it means that you're earning this passive yield, which makes it simply better than any other index that exists right now. And as for the borrower, Fungify can lower the rates, and have more capital efficiency from this maker DAO effect that Mob was talking about. And that's because it offers this synthetic token to people who want it purely for its utility. And what that actually means is, in addition to that, it also eliminates most of the volatility from the part of the loan where your NFT can be liquidated. So for any given price movement, Fungify will liquidate your NFT much later than any other lending protocol. And finally, for the seller use case, right, you're going to get a lot less slippage because, when you compare to other sort of solutions like NFTX, where you have individual vaults for individual NFT collections, we have a single vault where you're accessing this liquidity that's able to accrete upon the liquidity of all other collections. So when you look at all of these use cases and think about how Fungify addresses each one, we really do think we're better at it, and that's Fungify.
Yeah, you can almost imagine like the NFTX situation. It's like, what if they went and they took all of their vaults and they put it all together and in order to price things, they stuck a Chainlink price feed on it. That would make it so that if you were like trading in and out of the token, you would have so much more depth of liquidity instead of it being like fragmented among these, dozen Uniswap pools or something like that.
Perhaps you guys could go through an Alice and Bob example of, say, an NFT depositor or someone who takes out a loan, and an NFT index investor, so someone who deposits into the vault. And perhaps if there's any other actors in the ecosystem, would love to better understand a step-by-step how to engage with the protocol type of explanation.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
We can do that. Okay. I was supposed to like kind of finish a train of thought about margin calls there, but I can just switch over to the examples if you like.
No, feel free to finish your thought first.
Okay. So when we first started trying to think up this system, we're like, okay, algorithmic interest rates, but then there's like all these other issues, right? We're talking about essentially like a lending protocol at that point. So it's like, okay, you need some way to handle margin calls, or if you don't handle margin calls, then it's, essentially you're putting it in the format of a put, and the protocol is purchasing it. So if you have it in the put style, you're not really able to offer indefinite terms. You really need a price oracle for that. And that's where we came around to using Chainlink for it, which the Chainlink Coinbase price feeds, which just recently dropped. That's allowing us to deliver margin calls and indefinite term loans, all of that. So just to kind of like walk through a simplified example of how some people might interact with the protocol. Let's say Alice. Alice wants exposure to an NFT index. She buys the NFT index on the market, and then she can stake it and earn interest from the people who are borrowing. Borrowers might be people like Bob. Bob comes, he has an NFT he likes. He wants to borrow against it. He comes to the protocol, he deposits it as collateral. He gets a loan in the NFT token. He can go and he can take that NFT token and do whatever he wants with it. He can sell it. He can borrow against it. But now he is a fungible token that he can do something with. And then lastly, there's the redeemers. So you might be, somebody who just likes to have some fun. You like to play games of chance or something like that. There's a vault. Sometimes the vault has a positive expected value from redemptions. Maybe something slid into the vault that's a little bit more valuable. There is an incentive to play the game, go and redeem, and you could get something that's actually more valuable than what you put in. So those are basically the three players. There's somebody who might buy the index. There's somebody who will borrow against it. There's somebody who might redeem. Oh, and sorry, there's the last person who's like, you just have an NFT and you're like, man, I want to get rid of this NFT right now. So you just instantly sell it to the index, and that's it. It's that simple. Sorry. So those are the four main ones. I stumbled over myself a little on that one.
No, it's all good. Terry, did you have another follow up to that? Okay,
yeah, I'm quite
I'll
curious. In terms of the value that you can get in the NFT index token, as a percentage of the value that you get, as a percentage of the value of the NFT determined by the Chainlink floor price oracle. Like, I understand that's an algorithmic pricing, but could you just give us like a general sense of sort of the upper and lower bounds of where that fluctuates?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think I was just going to do a simple explanation for how that the price of the index token is sort of calculated in simple terms. Terry, if that was your question.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So that, and then sort of the in practice fluctuations of the I guess like the percentage of the collateral value that you get in index tokens. That those two would be fantastic.
Okay. So I'll walk through the sell use case for a minute. So when someone comes to the protocol and just simply wants to sell their NFT to the index, what do they actually get back in terms of the index token? Well, the index token price is calculated in simple terms by the floor value of NFTs contained within the vault. So tally up all of the floor value in ETH terms of the NFTs contained within the market vault, and then divide it by the total circulating supply of the index token. And that'll give you, a price of the index token in terms of ETH. So if you're coming in and trying to sell your NFT, let's say it's worth 100 ETH, you and the token price is $1, 1 ETH per token, you would get 100 index tokens. So it's always calculated based on the current price of the index token. And then in terms of the borrower and what type of LTV they can get, those LTVs are set per NFT collection. We're offering up to, I think, about 75% LTV for most NFT collections. So as a borrower, you can come in and get access to about 75% of the collateral that you're depositing.
Gotcha. I definitely understood a way better. Yes.
Mhm.
So in terms of redemptions, like how do you match the value of the index that you hold with an NFT in the index?
Yeah. So that's actually pretty straightforward. If you were to think about, let's say you hold a certain amount of index tokens, and the idea here is that these are fully backed by the NFTs that are contained within the vault. But in order to prevent, sniping of specific NFTs that have moved in price within the vault, what we do is we force you to do a random redemption from within the vault. So you would come in and there would be a certain amount of NFT tokens that you have to hold in order to sort of play this game. And that value is equivalent to the highest valued NFT floor price within the index. And so you would come in and say, okay, if that price is $100 worth of index token, you come in and you say, okay, $100 of index token, give me an NFT back. And whatever NFT that you get back randomly from within the vault, you would gain that and get the difference.
Gotcha. So I guess the protocol design and the composition of the index would be almost collection specific, right? Like it would be quite difficult to have cross collection floor vaults if this is the case.
There's only one vault.
So then what happens if, say, for example, like there are significantly higher floor valued items compared to the amount of NFT that you hold from depositing a lower value floor value item? Do you just randomly get like anything?
I mean, there is some level, like there is the possibility that you get in, but you get out more than you get in. I mean, at a steady state, the expectation is it comes out to zero. But depending on the state of the vault, like say somebody suffered a margin call or something like that, and there was like a liquidation buffer, there might be a positive expectation in that case for redemption. So there's actually an incentive.
Gotcha. That's pretty interesting. I guess like perhaps I'm not understanding this correctly, but it seems like, say, for example, like there are a lot of floorboard apes in the vault, and
Sure.
There is a whitelist system, and there is an NFT whose floor price is significantly lower than the Bored Ape floor price, and that is allowed to be deposited into the vault. It seems it's always a positive expected value game for a while to just fully deposit the lower value NFT. And then try to redeem it at least for a sort of like floorboard ape.
But you'd have to put in as much as a floorboard 8, so to like play the game once, right?
I see. So does that mean that necessarily each collection has its own kind of like quote unquote floor NFT index price where you need to possess that much quote unquote
Yes.
NFT token? Gotcha.
Yeah. So each NFT collection is tracked with its floor price, highest floor price.
Gotcha. Yeah. That clarifies it a lot.
Yeah, and we update that every time that NFT comes into the vault. So we use all those initial values and the random redemption to make it so that it all tracks and stays 0 EV in the steady state.
Yeah, this was like super helpful, guys. Maybe we could just take a little step back for a second and just get some like clarifying for me. So you guys, so basically, how does like, and just very, dumb question, how does like the whitelisting work? Why is whitelisting important? Because I would imagine like you want to be very careful about what assets you allow into the vault. Just given that will be kind of like determining the index price, and then also what's your process for whitelisting new assets? Like, how do you get beyond, I guess, blue chips is really what I'm kind of like getting to.
Yeah, for the whitelisting process, it's we've set the criteria will primarily be set by the DAO, but to initialize, we're looking at collections that have at least over a $50 million market cap. And secondly, or primarily, first, they have to have a Chainlink price feed. So we're starting with 6 collections. This will be the Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, Punks, Clone X, Doodles, and that'll be the starting point. But beyond that, communities would be encouraged to come to our DAO and basically make a pitch to why their NFT project should be part of this collection or this index, as long as they meet the minimum criteria. But again, that would also be set by the DAO.
And it's just like most lending protocols, you have to be very careful about which assets you let into it, because there's a sort of linkage between all the assets, right? And a blow up of one of them could lead to chain reactions. It's the same case in like something like Compound too, right? So you have to be careful about what assets you let people use as collateral, because they can borrow almost anything against it and blow up the protocol. So that's why whitelisting is important, but that's just a general case for lending protocols. And then, for us, it's about the Chainlink price feed. I think just for some context, though, right now, the size of collections in general is very, very, very small. Like think of how much attention NFTs get, and but when you compare it to the market cap, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you would think there would be billions and billions of dollars. But when we get to the point that the long tail of NFTs has market caps more like what we're seeing now, that's when we're going to start seeing people get beyond the blue chip NFTs. But The truth of the matter is we're at such a nascent stage right now that even the blue chip NFTs are not very big. And like, we're I mean, like $50 million as a cutoff is not a very strict cutoff. So I think the fundamental thing is really that like NFTs have to mature to a larger stage and just get more market cap before we're really rolling out the carpet for like a larger and larger lists or more granular indexes.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Like my background coming from equities, it's like 50 million market cap is just kind of like, it's crazy to think about like how small that is, and how early we are. I guess like let's zoom out a little bit. How do you guys view the market? And when I say the market, how do you guys view just like NFT finance more broadly? How do you see it evolving kind of over the next like 12 to 24 months?
So, I think we're extremely bullish, and maybe it's hard to actually communicate how bullish we are. So I have this story where I was in DevCon in Osaka, and it was October of 2019, and I was talking to this guy who was at the time leading up Coinbase Ventures. And he was talking to me about the latest round Compound had raised 25 million in their Series A with Andreessen Horowitz. And what he was telling me was that Leshner had to essentially go in there and tell people not that like DeFi TVL was going to go up and to the right, but that it was going to go straight the fuck up, just straight up and explode. And you know what? Sure enough, 5 months later, it did exactly that. He was completely right. He was making a super ballsy prediction, but he was extremely right on doing that. And I see so many parallels between original DeFi and NFT DeFi that I can't help but think the same thing is going to happen. We're going to go straight the fuck up, not up and to the right.
Hanzo?
Yeah, no, completely backing Mob here on where we think that it really does feel like the early days of DeFi. And back then, with the first set of protocols coming out, that were a lot of them were peer to peer, and then there was this big transition to peer to pool. I think the same type of parallels are sort of emerging in this space. It's not quite clear who's going to be the next Compound or Aave. NFTs present sort of these unique challenges that we have to overcome, and I think this is where Fungify is sort of uniquely different in the way that we're tackling the problem. A lot of the protocols that we see in the space right now are sort of trying to copy or fork existing versions of DeFi solutions, but they're running into problems. But to truly scale it, I think we need to tackle it in a way that actually addresses this non-fungible nature of these NFTs and allows them to actually be transacted in a way where they're not blocked off by these sort of block chunks that NFTs are. Yeah.
I love it. I think we got the title for this episode, just straight the fuck up. So we'll throw that one on. Is there anything that you guys feel like we missed that you want to touch on about Fungify before we close it out?
I mean, I guess we had some like kind of good spiels for like, what's Fungify or like what's a unique value prop versus say other things on the market. But I mean, it's up to you guys. We don't have any like hard agenda.
Yeah. I mean, if there was anything, just feel free to like kind of like chime in. If not, yeah. I guess like, are there any good ways for listeners to get involved with the project? If so, how can they get involved?
Honestly, just join the Discord, or make a pull request on GitHub. Either one is great.
Awesome. Hanzo, Mob, really appreciate the time today, guys. And listeners, go check out fungify.it and follow them on Twitter at FungifyNFT. Thanks, guys.
It's a pleasure.
Follow me on Twitter. I'm 0xTeteHoho on Twitter. That's Tay with an E. And you can follow Ryan at _Helmass.
Yeah, and that's _HELMASS. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you soon.